Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
We have 8 present, 1 absent. Councilmember O'Brien is excused.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any proposed additions or deletions? Otherwise, take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
I need a voice vote from Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
That motion carries 7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. We'll go to the consent agenda. Judy? We'll give you time.
Yep. Just getting you guys set up here. Okay. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval the city council minutes of October 16th, special city council meeting minutes of October 23rd, planning commission draft minutes of November 1st, Willmar Municipal Utilities minutes of October 23rd, Willmar Municipal Utilities financial reports for August of 23, certification of unpaid utility charges as a lien, the accounts payable report from October 12th through October 31st, consideration of deferred special assessments for senior citizens, disabled, or active military, and approved planning commission appointments. For council's information, we have the Convention and Visitors Bureau Board minutes of August 15th.
Okay. Need a motion to approve or
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
got a motion and a second? Any discussion? Being none, go ahead and vote.
That motion carries 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Move on to the open forum, and we have Nancy Street. And Nancy, welcome. You have 3 minutes. Welcome. Pull the microphone back again, Nancy. There you go.
Thank you for your time. I would send it an email, but I thought I would say this in person so I know you all hear it. Okay? I'm happy you're looking into changing the assessments, but I'm very disappointed that you knew there was a problem and you didn't do anything about it. There are also some other things that you need to look at into that. Assessments during construction. We've had to pay the assessment. I didn't pay mine, it's going on to my taxes, but it should not be done until the project is complete. Because there are numerous problems that come up after that fact. And then I'm also paying assessment where I have to, in order to get my driveway filled in, I literally had to become a bitch. And it's only halfway filled in, and the guy last week told me he doesn't know if he can complete it like they were because he doesn't know how to get crushed rock. And my neighbor next to me, his is not filled in at all. Well, nobody lives there right now, but they still have to access it. And nobody seems to care about that. And it's been weeks. And then also the deferments, you guys don't even follow your own ordinances. Okay, so I suggest you read it. Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to public hearing. And I understand John couldn't be here tonight. Janelle? Janelle is here for representing the municipal utilities in the presentation of the water rates and the electric rates. So go ahead, Janelle.
Okay. Willmar Municipal Utilities is requesting a water rate adjustment. The water rate adjustments will be required due to the water main costs associated with the city of Willmar's recently approved 10-year street capital improvement plan and the Northeast Water Treatment Plant that are currently under construction. Additional water main replacements for the city projects will result in about $400,000 shortfall for WMU's budget. The current water rate ordinance provides for a 5% rate adjustment in 2024 to meet the financial requirements of the additional water main projects and bonding costs for the Northeast Water Treatment Plant. An additional 15% water rate adjustment is proposed for 2024. The proposed adjustment would maintain the established 50% net revenue requirement by the policy, with the exception in 2027. The water rate study was conducted and accepted by the Commission in July of 2022. The suggested water rate adjustment proposed were a 20% increase each year in 2023, 24, and 25, and a 5% increase in 2026. When the bids in the project came in, $3.5 million below the engineer's estimate, a new financial plan model was created, reducing the suggested adjusted rates from the rate study from 20% to 5%. However, with the city's 10-year street capital improvement plan and bond interest anticipated at between 4 and 4.5%, for the water treatment plant, the original proposal of 20% increase in 2024 is required to be implemented so we can meet our budget and work hand in hand with the city to get those water main replacements along with the street projects. So the water rate ordinance that we were proposing is 20% in 2024, and then a 4% increase in 2025 and a 3% in 2026.
Okay, with that information, I'll open the hearing. And Janelle has outlined what the rate schedule is going to be. And is there any public that wants to speak to this, to the water rates first? Would you step up and give us your name and address?
This is Chris Peterson, 419 12th Street, Northwest, Willmar, Minnesota.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
I've lived here for like 20, well, since I moved in 1990, lived in the same house for 26 years. I've been paying a utility improvement fund, or it's been named several different things. Currently, it's utility improvement charge of $4. I don't know where that money goes. I just asked her. She doesn't know where that money goes. So I guess I'm wondering what that charge is, what it goes to. You'd think it would go to some of these projects that need to be done. There's also a franchise fee that's been tacked on. And I was under the impression that that franchise fee was going to replace the utility improvement fund, and that hasn't been the case. And also, you know, the fees and the taxes and stuff is, you know, if you go back to the little cards you guys had before, there is nothing there. Now we have that many taxes and fees and everything and stuff. Just, you know, a little clarity would help on the bill. Call it what it is. Meter service charge for sewer, there's no sewer meter. If it's a tax or a fee, call it a tax or a fee. You know, maybe, you know, we need to know where some of this money goes as a public and stuff, so, you know, we can be informed and make decisions and stuff. You know, I guess that's what I'm kind of mainly here for, is I'm just wondering what this improvement charge fee is for, if it's not being used for the utility improvements. You know, maybe one of you guys can answer a question or something, or how much is in that fund, where that money goes.
I can't answer that. I don't know if any staff can.
Mayor, this is a public forum or a public hearing on the
That's right.
ordinance. If there's, if the, Ms. Johnson from the utilities is able to answer the commenters' questions, that would be appropriate.
The items on that Chris is referring to are part of the sewer charges on the bill. And tonight, I believe the hearing is focused on the water rate increases. And so that would be a separate item outside of what we're asking. But just to answer Chris's question, we do bill for the city, the sewer wastewater charges on behalf of the city. And we do collect the utility improvement charge, which is by ordinance. And that's just a pass-through, and then it does go to the city, into their budget. And where it appears within the city's budget, that I cannot answer.
And the sewer charges are based on the water usage, which comes off of the meter.
Correct. Correct. So the sewer charges, the wastewater charges are based off of the water meter.
Right.
So you use 100 cubic feet on water, you're billed for 100 cubic feet on the wastewater or the sewer side.
Right. Does that answer any of your questions, Chris?
A little bit, well, not really.
Come down to the utility and we'll walk you through it.
Yeah. One of the things that I guess I just had was, I kind of talked to her and pointed this out too, for like single people, old people, retired people living by themselves. I don't use that much water. It's the water portion of the bill is $3.16. By the time you add on the fees and the meter charge, it's $22. To treat that water at the sewer plant, which is billed off the water meter, the $3 that I pay for the water, is now $37.86. The people that use the least amount of water are getting charged the most for it through the fees and the meter charges and everything else. So I guess I'm hoping going forward, any rate increase goes to the actual product, the water, or, you know, rather than jacking up the fees, adding a franchise fee and whatnot, you know, it's just would be more fair to the people that are using less rather than jacking up their fees and everything, which we can't avoid by using less, which I think is would benefit everybody, you know, through the long run. I guess that's just all I have.
All right, thanks, Chris. Anybody else to speak on the water rates? If not, I'll.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple letters to read
Oh, okay.
regarding water rates, if I may.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Sam Herzog, and I manage almost 300 units locally, and I want to briefly write about the utility costs in Willmar. In looking at the proposal in front of you tonight, which includes a 20% water increase, I want to express my support for making sure there is adequate revenue for WMU to successfully operate. If that means water needs to be more expensive, I support that within reason. That being said, any pricing change must also address the discriminate way multifamily owners and their tenants are treated in Willmar. I recently opened a 72-unit building in Willmar, and I brought in one water line, one sewer line. I have one water meter, and I have one monthly bill. A commercial building next to me would be charged for the water they used and for one meter. However, I am charged as if I have 72 individual meters and bills in addition to the water used. These fees end up getting passed on to the tenants and effectively become a tax on the often lower-income residents in our buildings to subsidize other businesses in Willmar. Charge me for what I have and what I use, but not for meters I don't have. Fixing this issue is the right thing to do and will bring the city into alignment with other comparable cities such as Alexandria, Fergus Falls, and Detroit Lakes. I commit to immediately lowering the rent costs to each of my tenants by the corrected amount when the city takes action on this. Thank you, Samuel Herzog. The next is a text which was addressed to Councilmember Butterfield. Good evening, Tom. Joe Riddler, 1912 20th Avenue Southwest. I know I'm not in your ward, but my council members in my ward seem to vote yes all the time on increases. Please express that we cannot sustain these kind of increases at this time, and we have to stop spending. These kind of increases are not there when people are not receiving increases in pay. I can't express myself enough that the city is pushing people out of the city to live in different counties. I thank you, and I thank the other council members for stepping up and doing what you do, but please stop the increases in spending. Please vote no on the 20-some percent rate increases. Thank you. Then the last one. Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff, I'm unable to be here at the hearing tonight, so I'm emailing my thoughts to Councilmember Butterfield to read into the record. First off, I want to thank you all for serving our city and our community at large. You have many major issues to deal with this year and the years to come to keep our city a viable place to live, work, and play. Most of these issues involve spending taxpayer money. I'm not sure what the need for these water sewer increases are directed at, but 20% for 2024, followed by 4% in 2025, and 3% in 2026 is more than the average household in Willmar can afford. The indirect hit for the average household will be increased costs of goods and services in Willmar, as all businesses have water and sewer bills also. Think about that. How many property tax-paying workers in Willmar will be getting a 20% increase in wages next year, or 4% and 3% in the following years? It won't be sustainable for many of these homeowners. I'm not sure how many more price increases people can take as inflation is eating away at everyone's buying ability. I'm asking you, the City Council, to send this package of water sewer increases back to the Municipal Utilities Board and have them come up with reasonable increases that can be absorbed by the average homeowner in Willmar. I also would like to know what percentage of these increases is for wages and benefits of employees, and how much is being put aside each year for a new MUC office building complex. I've been in the home building business in Willmar for over 40 years and have noticed the exorbitant increase in fees the utilities charges for setting up new accounts for new home construction. It's off the charts. And to pile on to the homeowner with a proposed electric increase of 5% at the same time is unconscionable. I think the municipal utilities can do a better job of keeping electric rates reasonable by asking each department to cut costs by 5%. You know what can be done. Lastly, I don't think my suggestions and comments or anyone else's will do any good, as at the end of this hearing, you, the council, will pass the increases as you, as a council, always heed staff recommends more than your constituents' concerns. When was the last time the city council sent back an increase to be lowered? You'll do the same with the budget when it comes up for approval. Please prove me wrong. Thanks for listening and maybe considering the impact on the people that voted you into office. Sincerely, Ron Christensen.
All right. Anybody else wants to speak in regards to the water rates? If not, I'll close the hearing and bring it up to the council for discussion. Julie.
I just want to say that the northeast wastewater treatment plant is going to be costly. I mean, that's one of those large investments that we have to make in the city to have everybody have water. And so the 20%, I understand the utility needing to keep that 20% for 2024, but I really hats off for the substantial lowering for 25 and 26. That was significant.
And even though we may not have heard that from the letters and texts to the council, that is appreciated by the citizens.
Any more from the council? Audrey?
So just a question, I know in the documentation that we got, majority of the increase is going because of our 10-year street capital improvement plan. If I think I'm correct on that. With that, we've had to delay a project to next year. And if we do not do the streets, all the streets we're proposing to do next year, if delaying, is there any reason to take a look at, could next year's be reduced a little? I know we talked about that once before, with whether the city would actually be able to follow the street plan as, kind of as we are hoping. And we've not had a conversation. I know we have several of them out for bid next year, but we've not had a conversation about how many streets we can actually do. So if I see correctly, the new water treatment plan is about 5% of the increase. Did I read that right? They reduced it. And the rest of it is for the streets. Can someone verify that for me?
Yes, Councilmember Nelson. We had formulated a plan to finance this water treatment plant in-house. And it was a 10-year capital street improvement plan that pushed us to have to go after this 20% increase. So last year, when the bids did come in $3.5 million less, we had figured out a way to potentially fund this. And, but now we have to plan. We did not put enough money aside because we did not know what the city's plan was going to be. But we have to plan because we have to pay for those water mains. And so this is part of the plan. And again, this was in the original plan, in the original rate study, but we were able to reduce those rates based on the information we had, but now we do have to address and plan.
So when would you review this again if we were not able to do the streets as fast as we hope that we can do? And you charge this 20% now, you would have more funds. Would you look at reducing?
It's possible we could reduce, yes.
Do you look at them every year? I'm trying to remember.
Well, right now we have this in place. What we're requesting is for 23, 4, or 24, 5, and 6. And then we will be doing another rate study in 2026 for the next forward-looking years. And so if the city is not moving forward on their street plan, that certainly will be taken into account. And I was reading the early rate increase earlier today, and the ordinance does state that this is what they will increase to. The language in there could have been up to 20%, and if these plans were not going to go through, then obviously we could adjust those rates. And we have had those discussions in-house.
Okay, so if I may go,
Yes.
continue. You will implement these though like January 1,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So when you say the up to, we're almost past the time of making that change,
For
right?
2024, yes.
Do you have any more, Audrey?
No, I'm uncomfortable with the just the unknowns that are there right now. I think with our ability to be able to fund all of the streets with next year, but I'm not sure that sending it back right now. We're not able to answer what streets we're going to do next year right now either, and so that even if we said the up to isn't going to make a difference for 2024, so.
At the moment, no, but again, the utility just needs to go by the information we're given, the plans you're given, and we have to plan accordingly. Otherwise, obviously, it certainly throws our budget in array, and because we don't function on a lot of reserves, but we do plan, and that's how we were able to come together with a plan to try and fund the water treatment plant all in-house without having to go outside. But now this has changed the whole picture, and so we have to plan accordingly so we can continue to provide the reliable services and get this water treatment plant built. Because we do have another one to build in 10 years.
Justin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are you required to keep the same rates for the entire year, or 6 months into the year, can you adjust rates?
If we could come forward with another ordinance and change it, yes.
Okay, so there's nothing that requires that to be set
It
like
would-
so long into the future?
It's all set by ordinance, and it would just have to come back to you.
Okay, but I guess my question is there any kind of like, we have to notify, citizens 6 months in advance before the rate change is made?
No.
Or the council could pass a rate change and tomorrow it goes into effect? Okay.
Okay.
Robert, do you have anything to add to that, please?
Just, that's correct, but just understand the charter specifies how utility rates in Willmar are set. That process starts with the Willmar Utilities Commission. They formulate recommendations to the city council, which they did in this case in the form of the recommended ordinance before you. So if we're mid-year and the utilities would like to initiate a rate change, they would follow the same process. I think the whole process takes 2 meetings at the Utilities Commission and 2 meetings at the city council. So it's a couple months.
Okay. Tom?
With what our attorney just stated, would it be feasible if we could just pass the 2024 for now and put off on the 25, 26 until next year? Just give them more time so we know what streets are coming up, what streets are falling off, what we're not gonna do. Would that be advisable?
I'm actually going to ask for some help, as the utilities has already adopted rates for 24, 25, and 26, correct?
Correct.
And this ordinance has the effect of backing off some of the scheduled increases for 25 and 26? I may not have that right. I will defer to your characterization.
It's not written into the ordinance as it's written to back off.
I guess my question
wrote
is,
it.
what is this ordinance changing about the rates that have already been adopted for 24, 25, and 26?
This rate change that we're requesting would be the 20% starting in 2024 instead of only a 5, because we did have a 5% on the books. Yes. So it was only changing the 2024 and actually 15%. And then 25 and 26 we left alone.
But 25 and 26, we could cut off right now. You guys come back next year with 25, 26 till we know exactly what streets the city's gonna do, what we're gonna have funds for, because it's my understanding we have $20 million budget or for street improvements, and my understanding is we're not gonna be able to do all those. So is it possible just to go ahead and pass the 2024 increase and put 25, 26 on hold till the city knows more what streets we can do and how much funds we're gonna have? It'll give the utilities more time to know what funds they got, what they have for the street projects.
All right, go ahead, Leslie.
This utilities is already taking into account what our 5-10-year capital improvement plan is. That's why they're saying 20% right now. And they're not increasing any of that in 25 and 26. The 4 and 5%, to my understanding, is for actually the water treatment plant in 25 and 26, and not the streets. Because they would have already built that into the rates, the street, because they know what our street plan, capital improvement plan is. So they've already taken into account those work. And they already know that if we have this coming in, this is just for the capital improvement plan for the water reconstructions, and that's already taken into effect. They want to start it in '24, and then it's already still carrying through 25 and 26. The other increase that you're looking at for 25 and 26 is for the water treatment plant, I believe, for the bonding that's necessary.
In operations.
Does that make sense?
So with 2024, we're gonna go up to 731 a month, correct, for 720? And in 2025, we're gonna add another $1.75 a month on that 731?
Correct.
Any other council members? That's Audrey.
I'm sorry to be asking you this question if this isn't the right time to ask it. I still hope we can get an answer for it, but the comment, I wrote down fees versus usage and how the bill is constructed and what the things are on there. I know that a few years ago you changed the verbiage on the bill to try to be clearer with what it actually was and what the requirements were with that. The comments that were made from the apartment owner regarding the meters, and I remember we had a lengthy conversation about that too, about 1 meter in a building versus multiple meters in a building with that. I don't know if you have any comments about that?
I do. Actually, we have two different scenarios here. The one that Mr. Peterson brought forward, and that is on the wastewater side. And several years ago, when we did do some clarifying on the billing, that was through the ordinance process. And so on the utility commission side, we did update and try to be more transparent. And on the wastewater side, the city has that's in the city ordinance, and we are solely, it's just a pass-through. We just bill that on behalf of the city. So we use the verbiage that the city has in the ordinance. So that would need to be corrected via ordinance on the city side. Now, to address Mr. Herzog's situation, what we did do last year in the 2022 rate study was we created a multi-unit rate. So these apartment buildings are paying, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, I'm going to ballpark it. Residential unit will pay a fixed cost of $13.60 a month for infrastructure fees for, the water lines, the treatment plant, all that infrastructure. And on the multi-unit rate, I believe that rate is $4.51 per dwelling, per residential dwelling. So we have done a lot of modification to accommodate the apartment buildings and duplexes and triplexes in the community. And we feel it is much fairer how we're doing it. And so everybody pays their fair share in the water costs and the infrastructure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Need a motion. Close the hearing and then go to a motion? Is that what I do? Okay.
Can I just ask one more question?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. How do the other communities that Mr. Herzog referred to, Alexandria, Fergus Falls, how do they do apartment buildings? Do you know?
I do not. I am not familiar with how they have structured.
A little bit question on that. Per unit off apartment buildings to house, what difference is it from, just a typical, say, 3 people living in a house is gonna be paying to an apartment with 3 people living in an apartment is gonna be paying for usage wise?
The difference is going to be approximately $9 to $10
A month savings in an apartment,
on an apartment building, yes.
for basically almost same water usage. Pretty close.
If that's the case, when you go from a household to an apartment, not all apartments have the same conveniences as a house does. Whether it's water softeners, electric washers, dishwashers, whatever, I don't know. But we do have a comparison of the usage. We know what apartment buildings use divided by the units. And then we know what a single-family home uses, outdoor faucets, whatever. Everything's mathematical. It's based on consumption, usage, dwellings, everything's mathematical.
Can Mr. Backman speak?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I've had a couple of discussions from our local developers, housing developers regarding this issue. If you look at a 6-inch meter charge, in the city of St. Cloud, that cost is $170 a month. For the city of Willmar, it's $1,624. And so if you look at bills, it's not unusual to be looking at a meter charge that's half the bill or more. The developers would love to have it more on the demand side. They're willing to pay more if they're using more water. They'll pay a higher amount on the demand side as opposed to the meter side. So I just bring that up to your attention. As was mentioned by Mr. Herzog, he has 1 meter, but he's being charged a lot more per month on the meter charge. So now you can say, well, is St. Cloud low compared to other cities? But he's also bringing in other cities too.
Just a minute, Sharon. Did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I'm understanding it, the issues raised by Mr. Herzog, which I'm interested to discuss more, wouldn't be directly related to the water rates that are before us tonight. Is that correct? That would be a separate, there'd be a separate ordinance that deal with those issues?
With what? No, that's part of the rate,
That is part of the rate?
yes.
Okay.
Because you have the rate charge and then you have the multifamily or per unit charge also that they have. So they have a consumption charge and then they have a fixed rate cost. And that should be in your packet also. I believe it's probably in the page that, page 68
Thank
in
you.
your packet.
And is there anyone on staff that could speak to the questions that have been raised about other cities? I thank you, Mr. Backman, for the St. Cloud specifics there, but other communities as well?
Well, I can speak on behalf of when I was in Litchfield, the utilities, and we did have a rental like this, where it's a multifamily, with this city of Willmar calls, multi-housing rate. But then that was also then, because it's no different having an apartment complex or a house. It's just square footage difference, that's it. Because you have a bathrooms and you have all the same amenities, you still have all the, probably the only difference is some apartments don't have a dishwasher or a water softener. But their rates also at that time was based on usage. So, for an example, the city of Willmar's is $4.51 per month per unit for multi-housing. but that would have included so much for usage to start with. So there'd be a base usage fee to go along, base usage to go along with that. And then if they would, and then their consumption would have been that base usage times the number of units, and then their consumption would start after they have used over that base consumption. So say the base consumption is 50 cubic feet times 52 units, or 100 cubic feet times 52 units, that'd be 5,200 cubic feet. Then after they got over that 5,200 cubic feet, then the consumption charge would have started.
Yes, Janelle.
I would like to just make one clarification. We have 3 6-inch lines in Willmar, and those lines are $497.90 a month. And they do not feed apartment buildings. I think what you might have been referring to was a connection charge. That's on a new business connecting to a new system. Kind of like a water access charge, and that's $1,000 on a 6-inch. So just want to clarify that. I do not know what
The
our,
1,624 you're talking about?
pardon?
The 1,624, is that what you're?
That's what was referred to in St. Cloud on a 6-inch meter. Our cost is actually, we're proposing for 2024, $497.90. And that is a 6-inch line, and we have 3 accounts, and that's industrial accounts. And so it's less than a $500 charge on those apartment buildings, way less.
The hearing is closed. Audrey?
As I'm thinking this through, what's before us tonight is regarding, really, the increases regarding the streets. If the structure of the billing or new is kind of a different subject than what we're talking about with water rates, am I correct? And would require a whole different analysis and comparisons from one community to the other. So if that was something the council wanted to do a study on what we look like versus other communities, is that something utilities could do, or who would do that?
I would think the utilities would do that.
If you could clarify, what kind of study are you looking for? Because we did do a water rate study.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the water rates. I'm talking about some of the things that Mr. Backman was talking about, like new construction and meters and the different, back to the fees versus usage kind of concept,
Okay,
that kind of information.
yeah, that, I imagine we could look into something like that to see what is out there. Economic development probably does have those numbers. But again, our connection is different from the water access charge, and that is significantly high in this community, and I don't know what those numbers are.
Each utility is very different from one another. And, you know, right now, we're talking about new water treatment plant here in town. You could be looking at a city that has not had to build a water treatment plant for over 25 years. And their system is working fine. It's the same with our wastewater plant. Our wastewater plant is only how old? It was a multi-million-dollar plant. Other communities didn't have to put in that huge wastewater plant. The city of St. Cloud, they share their wastewater plant with multi-cities. St. Joseph, Sartell, St. Augusta. So it just depends on your usage and your consumption. May depend on how many wells you have in your community that you have to maintain also. there are a lot of variables that go into this, and a lot also depends on if they still have bonds out on them, or if they don't have a bond out on them.
I think we need to circle back
Yeah.
and realize the reason for this rate increase. And the reason we are requesting this rate increase is because of the 10-year plan that the city has put together for their street capital improvement plan. We have to make sure that our share of that cost is going to be covered. That's why we came forward with this rate increase. This was not based on our plan. This is based on your plan.
And that's what I was saying, that's based on a 10-year capital improvement plan.
Yes.
So that's the reason for the 15% upfront. Now, council doesn't want to, we certainly are backing off on that for next year, but I mean, it's a living document. So if we don't want to do streets like we want to, if we only want to have, if the utilities only has to invest in water reconstruction about 1.2 million a year, they don't need to have a 20% increase. They don't need to have the 15% increase. They only need to have the 5% increase, if I understand right. From my conversations with John, I believe that's the magic number is 1.2 million is what is built into the rates right now for reconstruction. But reconstruction costs go up also. So 1.2 million doesn't get us everything either.
Right?
So this 15% difference, this is all going to go for streets then, correct?
That's what the utilities is supposed to be collecting for infrastructure.
I believe we budgeted $750,000 a year for water main replacement in our current budget. And now when it jumped up to 1.2 million, I was more than 750.
That's all right, Jerry.
But it's about 400,000 that we were short from what we had budgeted. Because we do realize that as you guys do replace streets, we do have that expense. So we have built that in. But now with this inflated, aggressive schedule, we need to make sure that we have the funds to cover our portion.
So none of this extra 15% is going to go for a new building or new vehicles or anything? It's just going to go for streets,
Yeah.
correct?
Water replacement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, council? What do you want to do?
I'll make a motion, we approve the 2024 water rate as presented.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion. Audrey?
I understand this one. I'll support this one. I'll vote yes for it. I do think, though, that for us to understand the clarity of the billing and some of the other things is a different subject than this specific water rate. And so I would hope that someone will come back and help us with that, whether it's, by looking at other communities to see if we're in the ballpark or where we're at, or to understand why we're doing what we're doing, so.
All right. The motion is to adopt the water rates and assign a number and publish. There's no further discussion. Go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Askew, and do a voice vote.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries 7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Thank you, Janelle, but we will move on to the electric rates.
All right.
I'll open the hearing for the
Okay.
electric rates.
All right, Willmar Municipal Utilities' last adjustment to our electrical rates was in 2015. So we've gone 8 years, it'll be almost 9 years without a rate increase or adjustment. Due to operating and capital improvement costs, to keep the system reliable, an adjustment to the rates is required. We're proposing an adjustment in 2024 of 5%, with a rate study that will be under consideration in 2024 to identify future needs and rate structures. The rate adjustment impact on our residential customers based on 1,000 kilowatt hours per month. We're looking at, in 2024, $6.31 a month in non-summer, and in summer, $7.05.
All right. Anybody from the public want to address the council in regards to this proposed change? If not, I'll close the hearing and bring it up to the council. Tom?
With us tearing down the old power plant, we're supposed to save $2 million. Where's that money going for now? That we're not having to pay to keep that up and running.
We have done significant investment in transmission. We built the Priam substation, which was almost $5 million. And we're putting in, I don't have the numbers on the Willmar substation, what we're putting in out there, but it's substantial. And then again, when we took the power plant down, we did build the power plant substation behind there. So what we were doing with the Priam substation and the Willmar substation is we have improved the reliability of power to this community by having power come in from different directions.
Yeah, but that was supposed to save us $2 million a year by us not having manufactured electricity, by us buying it. So now where's that $2 million at gonna hit the residents of Willmar?
We have reinvested that. We built the $5 million Priam substation. We didn't bond for it. We have no outstanding bonds at this time. So that money is being reinvested in transmission. And in transmission investments, being we own the transmission line, we are paid by other utilities to use the line also. So it reduces our cost for the power that this community has to pay. And so that $2 million that we saved, that was being paid out in wages, it was being paid out in operations and everything. And it's a shadow savings, but it is being reinvested back into the utility for reliability purposes. Because if we still had the power plant up and running, I'd probably be standing here asking for a 20% electric rate increase.
Carl?
So this is just for next year? Do you foresee increases yearly now? Are we looking at another, hopefully, 8 years without an increase?
I wish I
I know.
could say that.
Yeah.
But what we are doing is we are getting on the docket, and you can't just jump on and say, hey, we're going to do a rate study and they can start it. There's a demand for that. And so we are working with the Missouri River, and we have gotten on the docket, so we do have a placeholder. So we can get a rate study done, and it'll look at actual everything, consumption, number of households, number of meters, I should say, and every aspect of it. And again, it's all mathematical. So, but yes, we hopefully in 2024 we'll be able to get that completed, and then we will have a clearer picture. Because I think the last electrical rate study that was done was back in must have been 2014-ish, if 2015 was our last increase. So.
How much is this increase is gonna go for the new building, or is this all gonna be for?
This, actually, the new building, we've been planning and budgeting money over the years. So we do have retained earnings set aside, and the council has, or the commission has designated that money in different funds. And so this money would not go towards a new building, no.
Okay. All right, council?
I make a motion to approve the 2024 electric rates as presented and approved by the Municipal Utilities Commission.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any other discussion? Not, go ahead and vote.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 1 nay. Councilmember Butterfield casting the no vote.
All right, thank you, Janelle. Thank you. Next is Dunnick Concrete LLC land sale. Aaron?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. With me today is Jason Verstig, who is the Director of Engineering for Dunnick. Since early 2023, the EDC has been working with Dunnick Concrete regarding a land purchase in the Willmar Industrial Park area that would allow Dunnick to utilize the rail infrastructure that MB Rail is contemplating constructing in the Willmar Rail Park. Following the signing of a letter of intent in the first quarter of this year, we've been working on next steps. A preliminary land survey has been accomplished by Bonham Stern, as well as a legal description. Dunnick needs to have rail access to bring in concrete powder and other materials needed for their business activities. Dunnick wishes to purchase 13.67 acres north of the old taxiway. This land is located northeast of the MB Rail property and northwest of the new FedEx ground facility. Dunnick would initially set up a ready-mix concrete plant and in the future move ahead with other real estate projects. At this time, what I'd like to do is walk through the elements, the key elements of the purchase agreement and the proposed ordinance. So you should have that in your packet, and so I'll just walk through that. Obviously, the agreement is between Dunnick Concrete LLC and the City of Willmar. It is encompassing parts of 3 parcels and encompasses, as mentioned, almost 13.7 acres of land. One suggestion I would have under recital number 2, I've mentioned this to Robert, is that instead of saying concrete storage facility, I would put ready-mix concrete facility. And that appears on that first page, and then also it appears on, let's see here, it appears on page 2, 4A. Moving on, the seller is willing, that is the city, is willing to sell its interest in the property as is. In terms of the agreement, purchase agreement, it's $9,000 per acre, estimated to equal $123,030, which would go to the Industrial Park Fund. $10,000 would be earnest money. The balance would be paid at closing. If we go to page 2, key area there is section 4. This is seller's reserved interests. Option to repurchase. This is a common provision that we have in our agreements, purchase agreements that we've done over the years. Seller shall retain a conditional option to repurchase the property valid for a period of 2 years from and after the closing date for an amount equivalent to the purchase price. We expect that they don't sit on the land, that they develop the land. That's the deal. Failure to commence construction of a concrete, and again, it should be a ready-mix concrete facility on the property within 1 year, then we have that option. The city has the option to. For Part B, temporary access easement. This one does not appear in other agreements, but I'll walk you through it. A temporary easement for ingress, egress, and access over and across the taxiway at the former airport along the southern boundary of the property to Trott Avenue to the east thereof. Why should we do this? Well, Such temporary access or easement shall expire at the date on which improvements to Highway 40 consisting of a turn lane to access the real property are completed and opened for use. So MB Rail needs to have access. Highway 40 improvements are not done yet, so they need to access Trot Avenue. In fact, if you go out there to the old airport right now, there are dozens and dozens of next boxes that are on the old runway. Point C there, seller shall retain a right of flight for passage of aircraft in the airspace above the surface of the property. We are 2 miles away from the municipal airport, and so you can kind of see that under restrictive covenants on page 3. Moving on down to section 6, seller's closing documents. We will provide a quitclaim deed conveying the entirety of the city's interest in the property. And then on page 4, skipping over to E, the abstract of the title for the property will be provided. Contingencies, under buyer's contingencies at the bottom of page 4. Inspection due diligence shall have expired. In other words, that they shall have their opportunity without being terminated. If you go to page 5, part or subsection 6, sale of the property will require the seller to subdivide the property from the existing parcels of land and to effect the issuance of a separate tax parcel for the property. Part 6, seller shall have granted any easements, this is important, over lands owned by the seller that may be required if for legal access to utility services extending public water, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer services. So if you look at where the 69 kV line is out there going north and south, city has easements for utilities there. And we'll continue to have those so that they can bring in utilities from either the north or from the south. And I've had previous conversations with John with this. Seller's contingencies. City Planning Commission shall review the sale and provide a recommendation. Obviously, Leslie knows this. This was approved on October 5th. Top of page 6, the Willmar City Council shall pass an ordinance authorizing the sale of the property. That's what's happening at the present time. Prorations. Section number 9A, title insurance and closing fee. This was a point that we went back and forth with the attorneys, but we prevailed. Buyer will pay all costs of the title commitment. Deed tax seller shall pay the state deed tax. Skip over the real estate because it's currently tax exempt. Part D, seller will pay the cost of recording the seller's quitclaim deed. Part E, consultant fees, there should not be a lot of them, but buyer shall be responsible for legal fees and or other professional fees in connection with the sale and conveyance of the property to buyer. And then, as I mentioned before, title buyer may obtain at its sole cost a title commitment. So with that, I think I've covered most of the important elements for the purchase agreement. I'll skip over to the intro of the ordinance, which you should also have in your packet. Just pretty straightforward, 2 sections in there. Section 1 is the authorization of the sale, finding that it's in the best interests of the city of Willmar that the council authorize the sale and conveyance of real property on multiple parcels west of the city's platted industrial park and legally defined there. So I would stand for any questions, and if we need to, we can bring in Jason as well.
Carl.
So I know we addressed this earlier. I guess I would just like reassurance, clarification. The dust that would be created by this facility, there's going to be a collection, a vacuum or whatever you want to call it, that would prevent that dust from getting into the food, from getting into Hot Creek. I think we need to be careful that we aren't setting ourselves up for something that could, harm the waterway or harm the food products there.
Yeah, I don't want to take necessarily or speak for Jason, but what I would say is that certainly Dunick is aware of environmental requirements Cement dust would be collected using a bag house system. It's pretty effective. Thus, no air permit is needed for ready-mix operations. Dust from site traffic would be controlled through a variety of means for short-term purposes, watering, but then hard surface of high-traffic areas for permanent control. So I think they have a pretty good handle on that. And so that would be my response on the dust issue. They're about, at the closest point, I would say maybe 300 feet away, if you will, or they would not have the plant right next to Hot Creek, is what I'm trying to say.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we're looking for a motion for a hearing.
I'll make a motion to introduce an ordinance to set the public hearing for November 20th, 2023.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to set the hearing for November 20th, 2023. Any other questions?
Do we have to have 6:30 PM on there?
We already have a hearing at 6:30, so this would be a second.
6:31.
Or two? All right. Go ahead and vote if you haven't already.
Okay, that motion carries 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Then we need a motion to publish by summary.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead and vote.
That motion also carries 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Thank you. All right, Jared, LRIP funds.
Good evening, Mayor Council. This item is related to the Local Road Improvement Program, which is a funding mechanism through the Minnesota Department of Transportation. Currently, their solicitation identifies up to $1.5 million for local roadway improvements of regional and economic significance. As council may recall, Business 71, a couple of years ago, plans and specifications were authorized for that, and this was prior to the 10-year plan. That project was slated to utilize the city's entire allocation of state aid monies, which would not allow for those to be used on other routes. This is in my opinion, a great program for that roadway because of its 4-lane nature, high volumes. It's regionally significant being on the national highway system, and I believe it makes a good candidate for the local road improvement program. And that's why in your packets this evening, there is a resolution authorizing the application for that funding. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Any questions? Tom?
And do you think it was about time that we would move to get First Street on a concrete surface versus asphalt with volume? How often we're doing an overlay and everything on that? Don't you think it would be time for the city to invest into getting it done where it's gonna last us like Highway 12 has? I don't remember when the last time Highway 12 was done in concrete. It was probably late 70s, early 80s.
So on previous projects, the city has bid alternates into the projects. That's how a lot of the concrete streets actually came into town. So, I mean, that would be a potential for any street project in town. The upfront cost obviously is significantly higher, but there's a life cycle analysis that goes into that too, that the city has evaluated in the past. So any project in town could always be bid as an alternative concrete versus bituminous, and then certainly council could make that decision based on the bid prices and the life cycle cost analysis of that.
Okay, Any other questions? Otherwise, we need a resolution.
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution approving the pursuit of the LRIP funds for Business 71 Improvement Project.
Second.
And we got a resolution and a second. Any discussion, questions?
Just good luck.
Yeah. Go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Osmus, you want to do a voice vote?
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries 7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, thank you. Jared, move on to municipal airport drain tile.
Thanks, Mayor Council. The next item is the airport municipal drain tile installation project and grading improvements. Last Tuesday, or October 31st, we received 7 bids for the improvement project, ranged from approximately $85,650 to $380,662. 7 bids was a good bidder turnout. The low bid received was from Brower Construction, and we did review their bid, found it to be acceptable, and are recommending that the airport drain tile installation project be awarded to Brower Construction of Raymond, Minnesota, in the amount of $85,647.81.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just a question.
Yes, go
Thank you,
ahead.
Mr. Mayor. Is this going to eliminate all the issues now?
No.
Oh. What else is needed out there?
I think it's fair to say, as council's well aware, there's multiple drainage issues out there over the years. We've been taking care of them one by one with some new paving, installation of concrete center gutters in some of the taxiways. This is definitely going to help. This is one of the remaining issues that gets brought up by a lot of, well, for one, the airport commission, and for 2, the tenants out there. So it's definitely going to help.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
go ahead and vote.
Question. Didn't we already do a tiling project that went on the east side of the road and went south?
Yes, there's been numerous improvements, smaller improvements that have been done at the airport to alleviate some of the drainage issues there. This one actually will also address some things on the east side, but also the west, to allow more retention for the water, so that before it discharges from the site, we move it away from the hangars and the taxiways, get it into a depression, and then discharge it into the drainage way there to provide additional capacity so that we can move that water away from hangars.
Now, that's been a long time. I remember when we first built it, we had tiling issues around the terminal, where we were having water problems. All right. Did we vote?
Yes, that motion passes, 7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right.
Thanks, Council.
Thank you, Jared. All right. Foxhole Brew House, Judy.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight is a request to approve the Foxhole Brew House Incorporated on-sale intoxicating and brew pub off-sale liquor licenses through the fiscal year ending April 25th of 2024, and the Sunday liquor license through the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023. This would be for the new Foxhole Brew House that is expected to be opening in December.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Not, roll call.
Councilmember Davis, you want to do a voice vote?
Yes, aye.
Okay, that motion carries 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. All right, Judy, Intuition Brewing.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight is a request from Intuition Brewing LLC on sale taproom and brewer off sale liquor licenses through the fiscal year ending April 25th of '24, and their Sunday liquor license through the fiscal year ending December 31st of 2023. This is a new brewing company that's planning to occupy the downtown Foxhole facility, and they are planning to open as well in December.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
we got a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call.
Okay, that motion carries 7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Next item is Willmar Indoor Golf and Cages. Judy?
Okay, and the last request I have of you for this evening is consideration of the Willmar Indoor Golf and Cages LLC on-sale wine and on-sale intoxicating 3.2 liquor license through the fiscal year ending April 25th of '24. This is a new facility that's planning to open in the part of the old Herberger's building at the Candy Mall.
Isn't it in the home store?
The home store, yep.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Questions? Roll call.
That motion carries 7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Judy, one more. Acknowledge
Yes.
donations for the third quarter.
The last item I have for you, Mr. Mayor and council, this evening is to adopt the resolution approving donations for the third quarter of 2023. And for the period of July 1st, 2023 through September 31st of '23, the city received the following donations: $200 from Teresa Hallwerda for the Willmar Community Center, $295 from the American Legion gambling account for the Willmar Police Explorers, $500 for Candy Ohio Power Charitable Trust for the Willmar Community Center, $500 from Ryan Clark for the Willmar Police Explorers, $1,500 from Willmar Takedown Club for the City of Willmar, $1,530.56 from WBFBA Tournament Account to the City of Willmar.
We just need a motion.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call.
That motion carries 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Judy. All right, the next item is summary of conclusions of the evaluation of our city administrator, Leslie Valiant. On October 23rd, 2023, the city council held a closed meeting to evaluate the performance of city administrator Leslie Valiant. In accordance with governing law at this council meeting, which is the next possible open council meeting following the previously mentioned closed meeting. The city council is required to summarize the conclusions of the evaluation reached by the council at the October 23rd closed meeting. City Administrator Valiant did not request that such meeting be open to the public. As a result, the evaluation of City Administrator Valiant's performance took place in a closed meeting as provided under Minnesota open meeting law. As chairperson of this meeting, I will now provide a summary of the conclusions reached by the council from the October 23rd, 2023 evaluation. City Administrator Valiant was evaluated on numerous aspects of her performance and overall met expectations of her job. City Administrator Valiant communicates well with the city council, gives direction for the city, and is decisive in what she wants to be done. City Administrator Valiant is making progress on getting city council fully informed and engaged on issues, providing more avenues to address concerns from the public and city council members, and improving technology. The mayor and city council are grateful for all that City Administrator Valiant does and thanks her for her work on behalf of the city. A salary increase is warranted based on City Administrator Valiant's performance evaluation. I spoke with Leslie this morning, and it would be the 4, right? 4.5?
Well, that's what the directors
Yes.
received us for. Now, Robert, were we gonna?
Yeah, Mayor, Council, I spoke with Attorney Fitzsimmons in our office who helped with the evaluation, and I understand he's going to be providing some analysis to the council on just a framework of how to approve the salary increase that the council discussed was warranted. But I think that's expected to come for the next council meeting, if that's all right.
All right. Sorry, I stepped out of line there.
Nope, not at all. Thank you, Councilor.
Okay. So no motion tonight,
No. Oh, wait, for Brandon.
all right? What else did I have? Is that it?
That would be it. Unless you have community pride.
Yeah, community pride announcements, anybody? Tom?
Yeah, just to update a few of the council members. I had a town hall meeting a few days ago regarding city budget. I was getting contact about it, so I had it. It was very rushed. Some feedback I did get from it. They would like for a town hall with all, next year with all the council people to ask more questions with what they could have. It was very informative. I know the newspaper showed up because I emailed the newspaper, let the radio know I was going to be doing this. It was spur moment. It was brought up to me to do it. And so I did it. It was, found out some facts about it, and I emailed it to a couple people that I told was going to happen. So I just want to fill you guys in. I had one. And out of my findings, one person was for the city council to do an increase on taxes. One was for city council to run with last year's budget. 14 was to basically lower the budget from last year. So that was my findings from doing it, hearing back from the community.
Any other announcements? If not,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
we are adjourned.